swallowed my own spit, went down the wrong way. Hi! Welcome to tonight's #Whimsdom, where I go live every Monday and Friday here in this group, the Whimsical Rebel, to share complimentary guidance so that, one, you can feel completely supported in your own people-pleasing addiction recovery, and two, anyone that is not my client yet will get to see what it's like to work with me. And get this out there, get this energy out there for others, even others that aren't ready to go on an actual journey into their own recovery and into their own emotional growth, but still getting the message out there, making it a thing, awareness, I guess is what I'm trying to say, creating awareness that this is a problem, this is a thing, this isn't cute, being a people pleaser isn't just a personality type, it's not the cross that we're meant to bear, and it ain't cute. So tonight's topic I absolutely love. I was speaking with the client yesterday about this, and we spoke briefly about it, and my brain, like a lot of people pleasers, my brain thinks of things after the fact most times, which is why you guys will see me pause a lot in these when I'm trying to kind of recenter and allow the words to actually come in how they want to come in instead of me just rambling and railroading over them. It's not because I get ADHD or like derailed and like lose my train of thought. Really, it's because I have a delayed, sometimes the message is so potent that it takes a little bit of time to be articulated correctly. So sometimes after the fact, that's when it comes through. So, and if have you guys had experience with that? Like, have you ever, like, after an argument, the day after, you're like, oh, I should have said this. You might be a people pleaser. It also has a lot to do with our throat chakras and having that open and having energy and light be able to flow through there clearly when it's open so that you can communicate, because every single people pleaser has a closed off, like completely closed off, if not just super, super blocked throat chakra. And that's just a guarantee. That is just a guarantee. So, and if you don't believe in chakras and that kind of methodology, then put it this way, every single people pleaser has a problem expressing themselves. That's easier to absorb. So tonight's topic is so fantastic. It's so fantastic because this might be a concept, not just a concept, it might be a practice that is really out there if you are just beginning. Like if you're just beginning to think, maybe I'm a people pleaser, maybe that's why I feel abused and walked on and used up and I self-sabotage, maybe this is what's going on, and you're just getting into this, then what I'm about to say for the rest of this video might be like, oh no, I can't do that. Nope. But don't let it scare you. Even if it gives you that like, no, I could never say that to someone. Don't let that scare you, because trust me, if you begin your journey and you stick with it and you do the hard work that my clients do with me, then you absolutely will get to the point where it's not just okay and no longer makes you want to throw up in your mouth to consider drawing this line in the sand for your support in life, but it will become a non-negotiable. It will become like, oh yeah, no, I cannot believe I never put my foot down about this before. So don't let it scare you. But of course, I would love you guys to comment on this. If you are watching, if you do catch this recording, I would love for you to comment your own experiences with it. And let me know where you stand, like where you stand as a people pleaser. If you're like, maybe not. If maybe not, tell me the reasons why you think you're not. I do still love talking to and getting to know people that aren't people pleasers, because y'all have a lot to teach us. Just by expressing who you are, it gives us something to take and go, oh, and it's such an important part of how I can present this gift of recovery to people. What up, viewer? Comment below. I wish it would like say names. Sometimes it pops up and says so-and-so's watching, but normally it's just like that one eye that's just like, people are watching you. So put comments below. Tell me who you is, where you watching from, and what you think about the topic of tonight. Oh, see, and it did pop up a profile picture, but I can't see it. What up, Megan? What up? So, I have just, you caught the C. It's exactly what I was talking about earlier. You are energetically available right now to download this information into your body, because I literally was just pausing before getting into it. I was just kind of like explaining it before. So hell yes, you're there. You're there to hear all of this. So, too much. Let's talk about too much. I know you guys have seen me post, whether it's like a little uplifting graphic or whether it's me writing like a full long post about it, but you're allowed to be too fucking much. And it is the concept of being allowed to be too much is going to be the backbone. And what up, Melissa? It's going to be the backbone. Melissa, you might love this. We've kind of talked about this before. You guys, Melissa is a client of mine. But Melissa, this is a new way that it's coming through me to explain this. So it's going to be a new way that you've heard this, Melissa. So listen up. But so you're allowed to be too much. We've talked about this before. And it's not just about because there are other people out there that exist that are totally in sync with your too muchness. It's not just because of that. It's not just like there's so many fish in the sea, with friends and family and relationships that like someone out there would love every bit of you, all your too muchness. It's not just about that. Because that's a duh. There's so many fucking people in the world. Like, of course, there's going to be someone out there that's just like, I love everything that you do. And even the stuff that I don't love, I love you so much that I'm willing to like understand it with you. Besides that, it's about, it's not just about them existing. It's about, this is exactly what's okay. This is exactly what's coming through. This is the umbrella of everything. Ow, I just hurt my back. Everything that we're about to talk about. It's not about other people existing that would resonate with your too muchness. It's about you being able to exist fully in your most authentic identity. So it's not about all the other people out there existing that would be perfect supporting players in your field. It's about you being able to exist. Because this is all about identity. All of it. Even when I start my clients in the beginning and I have them do the people pleaser type identity assessment test before we even begin and we figure out which archetype fits them best, that's because I want them to wear that costume, that archetype costume, and identify with either the mouse or the phoenix or the pit bull, because they need to sit in that identity while we fucking overhaul the identity that they've been living in for so long, because that's not who they are. It's not. So your identity being, as a people pleaser, your identity being one of, I'm here for someone else, right? Because that's what we're doing when we put everyone first, is like, we're just telling the world like, no, I'm not here for me. I am here as a giant employee for everybody else's happiness and everybody else's benefit. And you have no identity. That's not an identity. That's a lack of, right? But we hold on to that empty space as if it's an actual identity. And really coming at this from a different angle of like, there's someone out there for me. There's friends out there that would really support me and get me. There's a lover out there that's totally going to understand me. Besides just thinking of it that way, that makes our problem about everyone else. And you can't do that. You can't do that, or you're just avoiding it. You're just holding on to that empty space when you make it about everyone else. And it's about you being able to exist. It's about you being the only one, right? You being the only one. Everything else falls away. Your children, your friends, your family, your pets, your job. It's about you being able to exist. I'm glad that came through. Okay, that was a great introduction. I write notes so that I write little bullet points so I don't get totally off track, because I will follow one of those little passion trails into 7 hours of live talking. But I won't do that to you. So, bullet points. Your limits are yours. I'm going to repeat that and explain what that means, because it sounds like a duh, right? But your limits, your boundaries, your non-negotiables are yours and yours alone. Because again, this is about you being the only one in existence. So they're yours. They're no one else's to hold. They're no one else's to break. They're nobody else's to reinforce. They're all yours. Okay? And really, when we're dealing with fucked up support in our life, it's because our boundaries, it's because we haven't been existing in our true identity. We've been holding on to an empty space, and our boundaries constantly slip through that space because we have nothing to back it up. We have no substance to actually reinforce that boundary and be like, no, I fucking said that's not okay, and it just slips through and it becomes like this weird cycle. It's almost like the empty space you're holding is like a hula hoop, and that person can come in, break that boundary, go out, and it's just limitless. They can just keep doing it and keep doing it. It's really gross and really violating. And something to remember about your boundaries, and a kind of side note about why I think it's so hard for a lot of people pleasers to embrace their boundaries and what they need, what their inner child needs to feel safe, and their boundaries, their true non-negotiables, why it's so hard to enforce them, to reinforce them and to put your foot down. It's because we're so afraid to hold the hand of those boundaries. We think of it like a marriage. There's this like forever scariness. Like if you have a boundary, I'll use this for example. So if your boundary is like no porn in my sexual relationship, no porn, right? That's a boundary of yours. If that is a boundary, if your inner child is going, I can't with this. This is a non-negotiable, right? Then it's okay if you connect with that or don't. It's just, I'm just using this for the analogy here, or the metaphor. So if that is your non-negotiable, your inner child needs that. It may be, as a beginning people pleaser, someone that hasn't dove into their recovery full force, it's going to be impossible for you to reinforce it. You might a little bit until it gets broken down and ticked away, but it's going to be hard to reinforce it because you haven't fully acknowledged it and owned it. And the reason that you haven't owned it is because there's this sense of like, well, I mean, maybe it's too prudish of me to ask someone else. Or maybe, like, who knows, maybe like 10 years from now, I'll be okay with my loved one, like watching porn. Maybe I'll actually get into it. I don't know. I don't want to put that limitation on myself. And oh my God, that is such a fucked up cycle when you have no identity, when you're holding on to an empty space and pretending that that's your identity, then you're terrified to lock into anything that actually is going to be a descriptor of an identity, like a layer of what could potentially be your identity, because there's this scary like foreverness. I call it like the careful what you wish for, right? Don't ask a people pleaser what they're going to do with the lottery money, because it's going to be full of like what ifs and, well, I don't want to say this because I know if I wish for this, then like some Murphy's Law is just going to come around and bite me in the ass. And they're just so afraid to say something, stick to something and mean it. And here's what you need to know. No matter what stage of your recovery you're in, your boundaries are completely changeable, just like you. You grow. And when you grow, so do your boundaries. And I'm not implying that like if you have like a hard no about porn, right? I'm not saying that like it's okay because eventually you won't mind it. That's not what I'm saying. But it's okay to hold on to that boundary and really be like, yeah, I'm going to hold your hand because my inner child needs you right now. I don't want to put my fucking foot down. This is going to be a boundary that I am going to reinforce. Be okay with that because they can evolve and they can change. And there's nothing wrong with you changing them later on in life and reevaluating. You're absolutely allowed to do that. You don't have to marry a single boundary. Hashtag, don't marry your boundaries. And not in the sense that you shouldn't hold tight to them, but you should allow yourself to hold tight, knowing that it's okay if it changes later. Does that make sense? Like allow yourself to like lock in 100% so that you don't have weak as fuck boundaries. You don't get walked all over. And locking into those boundaries 100% is what's going to build the threads of your true identity, of that you that really is in there, but just hasn't been supported and loved and protected. It's going to help build that up so that you actually have a sense of who you are, and then they can change, okay? So moving on. Too much. Y'all know me. Y'all know I am too much, and you all love me. And it took me a long time to be okay with showing my whole ass of too muchness to all of you guys in my relationships, even to my family. I mean, I want to talk about two, T-O-O, the word two right now, like too much, two. And there's only one that matters. There's only one two something that matters. I'm going to share it at the bottom of this, but let's talk about the other twos, like the other twos that make you back away from your boundaries, that make you not put your foot down, that make you not reinforce them. Too prudish, we talked about that, like maybe you're afraid to lock into that boundary because like it's just too prudish compared to what society is telling you or what your friends are telling you or what the fuck ever. Too demanding, right? Something that can make you feel too demanding is putting your foot down, drawing a hard boundary about, you know what, people need to come to me. And what I mean by that is like, my friends, this is a boundary of mine. I'm locked into this bitch. My friends have to come to me before they throw any bullshit about me not being there or me being too distant. Which means before they even get to open their mouth and have me even think about hearing them out when they say, you're never here, or you never call me, or blah, blah, there better be some fucking hard evidence that there's a call or a message or a text from them that I have ignored. That's it. That is fucking it. That's a boundary of mine. I won't put up with it. And maybe you guys can remind me when we get to the end, or maybe I'll write it down. Let me write this down. I just remember that I need to talk about something before we close this out later of what it means. Goodbye, question mark? Yeah, hopefully that'll jog my memory. Right, Megan? Like it's just, and for so long, you guys, for so long, that boundary, I never locked into it because I was so understanding. Yay, empaths, right? I was so understanding that I was like, well, but that's not really fair. That's not really fair because there's so many instances. Everything's relative. There's 3 sides to every story, blah, blah, blah. And it might not be fair. That boundary can't possibly be applied to every situation, which is a bullshit excuse. And it was an excuse to help keep me comfortable in that empty space and in that people-pleasing identity. Was that I was so understanding. That was part of my fake identity. Right? And it's just, it's a hard boundary of mine. And it's also one that I don't see changing. I don't think it should change, but who knows, right? But I'm locked into that bitch. And what's amazing is that, side note, when you lock into a boundary, you actually have to deal with it less. And that has to do with energy and manifestation. And we talked about a long time ago, like weeks ago, we talked about the difference between just manifesting versus creating the space for that which you manifest. This is taking the action of creating the space. Because like you're manifesting people that will not give you shit. Give you unnecessary, undue shit, right? You're manifesting support like that in your life. But you have to create the space, and locking into that boundary is creating that space for them to actually come and be there. So you actually end up having to deal with it. I mean, it's not like creating boundaries means that you're going to be in for a shitload of fighting. That's not what happens. There's something that opens up in your energetic field when you actually lock into a boundary and you promise your inner child, no, I am going to stick up for you on this one. I'm unshakable, unfuckwithable on this one. And it's almost like you exude that energy. And then you actually, even though you're ready, you're like, fucking say something. I'm putting my foot down, say something. It's almost like sometimes it doesn't even come because the energy you're putting out is like, no, I'm not going to put up with that. And it might be too hard to believe, but you'll actually start experiencing it if you do it. Let's see, more twos. Too spiritual. Maybe there's something that maybe there's a boundary that you're like, my loved one, my relational partner has to have the same beliefs as I do, right? Maybe that's one of yours. Maybe that's my partner has to have the same beliefs as me. And then maybe the reason you haven't locked into that, if that is one of yours, is that's just too spiritual. It's not fair because there's so many people out there that are amazing people, but they don't have the same beliefs as me. And then you kind of dilute it, right? Like maybe you'll dilute it to like, well, they don't have to have the same beliefs as me, but like as long as they're like open to talking about it and like don't knock my beliefs. Like whatever dilution you try to apply to it. But there's no such thing as that. We'll do a few more twos and I'll explain why there's no such thing as two. Too free. Mm-hmm. Too free. We're going to talk a lot about totally different boundaries that apply to so many different people. But, my romantic partner needs to be okay with my polyamory. A lot of people that need that is something that their spirit needs, they won't lock into it because that's just too free and eccentric and out there, right? Too shy, a boundary could be my friends and family and loved ones are not allowed to pressure me to be outgoing or to do this thing or to be louder or to get up on stage. Like they're not allowed to. And that could be something that, and a lot of introverts out there, that could be a hard boundary that you're refusing to lock into for yourself. And it creates so much static and weirdness and emotional charge and grossness in so many different situations. But if you were to lock into that boundary, you wouldn't have to deal with any of that. And also the opposite, outgoing. There's no such thing as too outgoing. I have a boundary. Darren learned it when we first started dating. It was like the first year we were dating, 10 years ago. And you don't fucking shush me. That's a boundary of mine. And I didn't let the fear of being too outgoing keep me from locking into that boundary. You don't get to shush me. If you know me and you love me and you take me out into public or in a situation or whatever, me being too loud is all about you. You don't get to put that shit on me. So, too sensitive. I had to, I see it's coming. I'm still trying to embrace the beauty of it. Oh, absolutely, Meg. Yeah, totally. Meg, you should apply for, and I know you, so I will absolutely approve it, but you should apply for your Lady Balls roadmap call. 90 minutes. We'll get deep into it. And don't worry, it's not like a weird sales call. Like, in the end, if you would like to discuss what I offer, totally fine. But if not, it's amazing either way. And I love these calls because I get to know you guys so well. So definitely do that. And after this, I should have put it anyway. I'll put the link in the text above. But yeah, I'm not a fucking child. Don't shush me. Even if you think what I'm doing is inappropriate, like if I'm laughing at a funeral, I'm sorry, you don't get to shush me. And again, we're going to talk about this at the end, but that doesn't mean that I freak out on people that do. It means it means the support that I curate in my life. Because of course you're going to be surrounded by people all the time that aren't people that you have curated for your life, but you can't freak out on them. So being too sensitive, I had to draw this line. I had to set this boundary for my relationship with my sister because it was just something that we kind of grew up doing, and it took me until I was an adult, a few years ago, and I was just like, oh no, my inner child needs me to set this boundary because this is not okay. It turns out this is not okay with me. Even though I participated in this activity myself, I realized how gross it felt when I did it and why it felt gross and why I was not going to allow anyone to do it to me anymore. And I broke past the worry of being too sensitive. And my boundary with that was, you're not allowed to make fun of me. And that sounds really weird and like bratty and sensitive, but I absolutely mean it. It's not okay for me, for a loved one, a friend, to say a negative comment or be snarky or rude or make fun of me or be catty. It's just not okay with me. That doesn't mean like if I fall, you can fucking laugh. Like that's not what I mean. You know, if I do something stupid and we're all laughing about it, like, duh, I love making fun of myself. But I mean in the sense of, I think when I finally locked into it, I walked into the room and I was wearing kind of like goofy looking pants. And my sister looked at me and looked at my pants and went, really? And that was it. Like my inner child went, done. And of course we had a conversation about it and she was like, I'm so sorry. It's just the way we've always talked to each other. I had no idea it was really hurting you. And I was like, yeah, me neither. And she has not done it since because I expressed a boundary and she loves me. So those are like the twos. I'm not going to keep going because it can go on forever, but those are the twos that come to mind, right? I'm going to tell you right now, no matter what other twos you can think of, the only fucking one that matters, the only too much of something that you can ever be is lax about your boundaries. That's it. There is no such thing as too much of you in any other sense because this is your existence. You have to curate your own support and your own energy field and what is around you. You have to do that for yourself. And the only two of anything that matters is when you're too lax, when you haven't locked into boundaries because you're afraid that they might change, which they will, which is okay. But you're too lax and you let people break them. You don't put your foot down. You don't have those awkward conversations with people when you're like, I had this boundary, they stepped on it, but I do like this person and I want to keep them in my life, so I want to have this conversation with them. And honestly, those awkward conversations are what gives the power to the other person in that moment. Because you're like, I'm putting my foot down, here's why, here is what's going on. And then it's up to them whether or not they want to be part of your amazing team. Because they might be like, that's dumb. I'm not going to tailor how I speak to people because that's just who I am. Cool. That's totally fine. They just don't get to be on your hand-selected team anymore. Right? And let's talk about the difference in acknowledging you being the only one versus everyone else being their only one as well. I tell you guys this all the time, that your journey through this life, you're a cosmic force, you're in a meat puppet, legit. Like you're that kid in class with the egg that you're trying to keep alive, pretend it's a baby. The egg is your body. If it breaks, whatever, but you're still this beautiful child that was trying to take care of it. So you are in this meat puppet. Ow, I hit my elbow really hard. You're in this meat puppet, and so is everyone else. And no matter what, the level of wokeness, whether or not they're a fucked up individual, whatever choices they make in life, whatever choices you have made in life, it's all exactly what is supposed to be happening to those specific journeys. They're all individual and it's all beautiful in its own way. Just because it's not yours means nothing. So really being able to sit in that and know how individual and how precious you are, and then being able to actually apply that in your vision of others. Because it's real easy to be like, I am this individual person, me, and then think that everyone else is like you and therefore should be doing what you're doing or should be absorbing the same things that you're absorbing and downloading. Like, no. So you're all these individual amazing beings, and blurry boundaries, the ones you're not locking into, blurry boundaries means blurry identity. And you don't want to be holding on to this empty space. You don't want to be holding on. You don't want to be coexisting in a meat sack with like nothingness, right? You have one life. That's not fun. That's fucked up. Like you're putting yourself in solitary for no fucking reason. So let me make sure before I do the closing it up that I wanted to talk about. Let me make sure I haven't missed anything in my bullet points. Ooh, this is important. So when I was talking to my client earlier or yesterday, the reason this came up was because she had a sudden trust break with someone that was on her team. And a trust break can happen in so many different ways, and it was just about this person suddenly revealing how they truly felt about her, which completely went against everything they had ever said. It went against any way they had ever acted. Like, it was just all of a sudden like, I feel like you're toxic for me because of this. And it's like, what? You think that way about me? Like, what? Where did this come from? And that's a trust break, because if it's a member that you chose to be on your team, and you feel like you've been lied to. You feel, that happened to me. It was a while ago. Darren and I were talking, normal conversation. We were out to dinner, and he randomly, somehow the conversation devolved into us kind of talking about how icky we can each get when we're surrounded by certain people. And I was like, yeah, I don't like it when you're around this person, because then you kind of do this. And then he basically said, like, I don't like it when you're around anyone. And that took weeks for me to get over. And not just get over, I didn't just like accept it, but for me to work through and do what I had to do to figure it out. Because it was a trust break. I felt like I had been lied to for our entire relationship. I was like, so you're mean and you do this. You flash back to that Rolodex of memories with that person, and you go, so every time we've ever been in this situation, this is what you were really thinking of me. So I want to touch on that, because every time you have a trust break, you go through that Rolodex and you go, fucking, this has been going on this whole time. You've just been like lying to my face, which isn't actually what's going on, by the way. People have their own revelations however they need to, and it comes to them however it needs to. So just because someone's suddenly shaking up your fucking world and going, oh, by the way, this is how I actually feel, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's always been that way and they've just been lying. It could mean that it's something that they suddenly figured out. Either way, it doesn't mean anything to you because it has nothing to do with you. But there is this paranoia that comes along with it. When your trust is broken, you feel like you've been lied to, you feel like the fool. You immediately start looking at everyone else in your life and you go, who else feels this way? If this person can suddenly do this and say this about me, who else feels that way? And that is the quickest way to isolate yourself. That is the quickest way to set fire to all of the fear that trust break ignite, like the little embers or the little kindling that the trust break splintered out. The quickest way to set fire to it is allowing yourself to forget that everyone is their own only one. Everyone is their own individual on their path, in their own meat bag, with their own experiences and feelings and thoughts and all of that. Because we convince ourselves that we're going to lump them up because it's us and everyone else, which is true in a way. But in that moment, we go us, everyone else. So she's part of that everyone else. And she just said this shit to me. So everyone else, this is how the world views me. And it's so easy to do. And I'm like, shout it out if you've done it before. It's so easy. Even entrepreneurs out there, because I know the two of you that are watching right now are in the MLM game. And when you see one person say some shit from your friends list, right? I had it happen to me. Someone said, and she said some shit, made sure I had time to see it, and then blocked me. But people that will say some shit, like vaguely, not really about you, but totally about you, or about your business, or about whatever you're doing in this world, and you like had no idea they felt that way, immediately your whole friends list becomes this minefield of, oh my God, everyone looks at me this way. Everyone is thinking this. And then it affects everything you do. It's like someone kicked you in the throat. It shuts your throat chakra down. When you were on a roll, you were making posts that were giving value to the world, you were hitting it, you were in alignment, you were grooving, and then someone said some shit, and you just went, fuck, the world's against me. And first, it's a totally natural slope to slide down, especially for a people pleaser. Really, maybe only for a people pleaser. But, so know that you are completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you. But know that it is just incorrectly receiving information. It's just us self-diagnosing a situation. It is just us forgetting that there is no big lump of others. It's all other individuals. So if there's 1,000 people, one of them turns into an asshole, turns against you, breaks your trust. The other 999 people, that's 999 chances for completely different perceptions, reactions, impressions of you. So don't think it's just one and then the rest of them. It's one and then 999 different ones, okay? And a little something else to kind of help that solidify is anybody else that is not fit to be in your team, on your team. Even the ones that you don't know that about them yet. Even ones that you haven't met, that will not make the cut. The only thing that, and I don't even want to call them haters, because people that don't make your team, it doesn't mean they're haters. People that don't make your team, it just means that whatever their experience is going to be on this planet, it involves participating in one of your non-negotiables, which doesn't say anything about them, right? Like, it doesn't. Just because your non-negotiable in your relationship is no porn doesn't mean that someone that loves watching porn with their partner is a hater, right? It just means that their journey that they're on is not compatible with your set of boundaries and the journey that you're on. So it just means they're not on your hand-selected team. That's it. So let's see if I'm trying to think of something to call them, the people that are not on your team. It's like the others. I don't know. Non-team, the other team. I don't even know what you would call them. Maybe that's not coming through because we shouldn't label other people. They're just not on your team. But the only thing that they'll have in common, only thing, they will not share. This is so important. They will not ever share the same opinion of you. So that one dickhead that broke your trust all of a sudden and was like, blurt, 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 this is how I really feel about you. That had to do with whatever they're going through. That had to do with their own culmination of experiences with you that have gone through their own filter of whatever kind of person they are, whatever kind of battles they have right now, like whatever it is. Literally something as simple as like, you're too hippy dippy for me anymore. It literally could just be because their experiences with you suddenly got healthy and cared about the fucking planet, and it's clogging up their filters because that's not something that they're into right now. Like whatever it is, their opinion of you has gone through all of their own filters, even if they're poisonous filters. It's gone through all of their own shit, and that then gets combined with their own life experiences, their own culture, the way they were raised. It's impossible. It is impossible for someone else to have the same opinion of you. Impossible, because they're not the same person. They're not the same person that has had the same conversations with you. They're not the same person that has had different life experiences before they met you. Of course, Meg, it'll be here when you're ready. It'll be here. It's just impossible for someone to have the same opinion of you. So when we're thinking of it that way, the only thing that could be commonality that people not on your team can share is that they are not willing to create space for you and your love. That's it. That is it. People on your team, and really it could be the only commonality that people on your team share too, is that they're willing to create space for you and your love. Right? Because there's different people that serve different purposes in our lives. Like my mom fills certain areas of my life because she doesn't have to uphold the same boundaries that Darren does because she's not my romantic partner. Darren is. There's different boundaries between us versus like my mom. So it's all going to come from a different place. So the only thing that everyone, the team that I have hand selected and curated for myself, from the support in my life, the energetic field I am surrounded by, the only commonality between them is that they are willing to create space for me and my love. And the only commonality between everyone else is that they're not. And that's it. And that's a really great way to look at it, because deciding someone's not fit for your team shouldn't ever have excess strings attached. You shouldn't ever have to be like, no, they're not fit to be on my team, and then have residual anger toward them or anything, because the only thing is that they're not willing to create space for your love and you. Cool. Like, if you've heard the term bless and release, that is actually what that means. It means acknowledging. It doesn't just mean like, you do you, go ahead, whatever, you're not worth being in my realm. Like, y'all know I don't do catty bullshit. Y'all know I don't do that fake empowered nonsense where you put yourself on a different level because you're more woke than someone else, so they're not fit to be on your team. No, nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. So it's all about recognizing everyone is such an individual and so different. And there are just people that are going to be willing to make space for you and your love. And those are going to be the people that respect the boundaries that you put into place. And that is how you find the people that love all of your too muchness. That's how you do it. So, yeah, I feel like that's, good. I feel like that's all of it. Not just because it's everything that, all the bullet points that I wrote, but nothing, like no other words are coming in right now. So yeah. So we'll close this one out. I know it was a long one, but it was such an important one. And you can't put a time limit on when a passion pull is coming through and you're being called to speak, or you're on here and you're being called to download and listen. So I love you guys so much. If you have any other questions about this topic, message me, comment on here, whatever you want to do. And as always, we do this every Monday and Friday. If you have a specific topic that you want covered, even if we've talked about it before, maybe you didn't catch that one, or maybe that one wasn't presented in a way that connected with you, whatever it is, you can always message me if you want specific topics covered. But I love you guys, and I will see you on Monday. And as always, if this is going to help someone you know, share it. I love you.